Hey everyone, it's January 15th, 2026. I am Cindy. This is an open door. This is the hour that we entitle Finding Truth Everywhere, where we are all invited to listen to a teacher, a podcast, a YouTube, from all sorts of traditions, and then come into this space for an hour and talk about how their teachings has affected us and what we know or what we have learned and how it all serves us. I am going to hand things over to our beloved friend Melanie Gillis, who, wow, I'm feeling, I got to tell you, I'm feeling the energy of this space and it's taking my words away. So that's the pause. Chuck's been talking about tingling lately, and every cell in my body is kind of unwinding and shifting and changing, um,
Oh,
and it's just so wonderful and beautiful. And actually, this conversation with Hamad from the Diamond Approach and Henry Schuckman, the Zen master, with Tammy from Sounds True, points a lot to just being in this moment. And with that, Mel, I'm going to have to hand it over to you and find my voice again in a few minutes.
well, hello everybody. Thank you all for diving in with this one. This was kind of took you kind of deep. And I was going to share, first of all, what Tammy Simon kind of sums up the discussion, which is kind of useful, the points. It makes my life a lot easier too. But then I'll share some of that, and then I'll share what maybe spoke to me from this podcast. And she goes, she kind of sums it up as a spiritual realization isn't one destination, but an ongoing revelation of reality's many faces, from blazing emptiness to infinite love. And some of the points were why awakening is an endless process rather than a final arrival, the profound difference between thinking and heart knowing, how to navigate the fear that arises at the threshold of ego dissolution, the role of trust and compassion in profound transformation. What happens when individual consciousness completely ceases? Why nothingness and being are inseparable faces of reality. How grief and loss can become doorways to awakening. The Zen teaching of unilocality, one point containing everything, and why love may be the most fundamental nature of reality itself. And that kind of really sums up a lot of the essence of what we're all talking about in many, many different ways, though. And they did make a point, there's many different ways of experiencing love and truth and reality. And the one that was first mentioned was by Doshin, that the four ways of that all is one, it's absolutely empty, completely, infinitely creative, and never apart from wherever you are. I really appreciated how, I guess it was Henry Schuckman, and I thought it was so curious. His name is Henry Schuckman, and it's so much like Helen Schuckman. I don't know. It was kind of unusual. But he talks so, that blazing forth. I mean, he really was so evocative of that, the blazing forth out of nothing, out of what? And we take things so for granted that every moment, life is expressing itself in this incredible variety and infinite expression that we are all of, that we are all. And isn't that just it's a spectacular, it's amazing. And just to, remember that and celebrate that. I just really appreciated his enthusiasm about the blazing forth of life. Um, and he even called the absence that is constantly blazing forth as existence tissue. It's kind of, that paradox of absence and yet this existence tissue, which makes it, alive and viable. So I really appreciate that too. And I also, he talked about the goneness, the oneness and the goneness. There's the two sides of the same thing. And just how they both talked about experiencing that goneness, that total dissolution of self, um, which is, we listen to Lonnie, all the many voices flowing through her, and then they experience of just being of nothing, and yet coming back and still being. So anyway, that was kind of an interesting dive what they took on that. And I did appreciate, I think it was Hamid, or he talked about the importance of trust and the practice of trust, and how essential that made me think of Endago, that recognizing that all is well, that there is a benevolence that's always present. Love is always behind the scenes, always here. And trust is what lets you extend beyond. Let's see what else I want to say. Oh, and then their talk about the uni locality. That was kind of new, that everything, one point contains everything, and everything, the one is everything and everything is one. But they kind of pointed to that in a different way. So I appreciate that as well. Transparency. Oh, and I love the ending where they really got into the importance of love, that goneness is infinite love in disguise, constantly giving. It's that constantly giving. That's where love is showing, is expressing. That one endless, boundless generosity and the belonging and the inseparability. It's all pointing that. I just love the way they talked. And they also mentioned about this, you know, Amy, I was listening to your training wheels, and they did talk about, seeing, the hate or the some of the war and the trauma that we see in the world. And they kind of talked a little bit about, the different levels of experience, and that depending on different levels, you might be infused with love. But when you are experiencing the separate self, it brings in that all of that the hate and whatever, because there's a sense of a me and an other, and what that brings with it. So I think that's the essence of what I kind of pulled. And I'd love to hear if anybody had anything to share. I know, Lonnie, you also have, Hamid, right? You have worked with him.
So I took the Diamond Approach training after listening to him for about a year, and I was mesmerized. It was an opening, I think, that we had been looking for. And so we went into the training. Also, we went looking for something. We needed some answers to some questions. And so we found it there in the Diamond Approach. What we also found was the information that channels through Hamid is one level of is a very high level of information. And when you take the course, they kind of water it down
Mhm.
so that you don't even I can only talk about it the way we received it. When we listen to him, we hear the frequency of the message. When you take the course, you don't get the frequency, you know?
Mhm.
But it resonated so deeply with my system needing to connect at that time and a place to connect. Unfortunately, to be truthful, um, we stepped away from it only because when we tried to go deeper in and become a more part of them, that was our first attempt at saying to people, "This is who we are and this is how we exist." And his his
Okay.
school sent me back a lovely 3 paragraph letter that basically said, "Yeah, you need therapy."
Wow.
So
Oh,
I sent them a letter back that said, the therapists are the ones who come to me. So thanks anyway. See you later. And that's how we found the human library. So all was exactly as it was to be. I received the grounding. Ilani received the grounding that I needed when I did the study with them. And then it was time to move on. I didn't have to continue to tie myself to them or attach to them. The information I needed, I took with me.
hmm. Thank you.
So listening, yes, you're listening to the tape was a nice retouch of that information.
Mhm. Mhm. I might have to call on people. Oh, good. We got Cindy. Thank you.
Um, the first thing, and I mentioned it yesterday, and Lonnie was talking about the vibration of the teachings, right? So when I was listening, every time Henry, and I noticed his name too,
Okay.
um, every time he spoke, I started to tear up. Like I could feel an opening and a release. And the kind of crying I'm talking about isn't sadness, it's not even emotion. It feels like release. Um, so that was the very first thing. The second, um, oh, there's a lot of things here, but he's experiencing coming out of the emptiness, blazing forth. You talked about it. And then these words, and I'm probably going to go back to a mind at home with itself because that's Byron Katie's interpretation of the Diamond Sutra. And man, they're talking of it, but this line, dwelling nowhere, mind comes forth. I kept writing it everywhere, and almost as soon as I turn away from it, I couldn't repeat those 5 words. So I've learned that that means that there's something that is, that is resisting the simple teaching that I don't know where this moment came from. Like in truth, dwelling nowhere, the mind comes forth and then it disappears back into the nowhere. And this whole idea of memory is emptiness, which is the Vasista yoga, was all kind of merging in my space. But then really, for me, the other really important part, well, he also, before I say that, he also talked about that there are 3 parts to this awakening, like 3 legs of the ladder. Um, and a key part of it is community. So they talked about the importance of being surrounded by community. And in the Vasista Yoga, which I'm spending time with every day, they have 4 parts. Um, and they say you may just want to focus on one, but if you focus on one with all of your heart, then the other 4 become natural. And in the Vasista Yoga, it's the teachings which they pointed to. The second thing, which I don't think they pointed to, was inquiry. In the Vasista Yoga, it's teachings, inquiry, and the third thing, which was huge in this podcast for me, was the way Vasista Yoga put it was contentment.
Mhm.
And they talked to, being in the present moment, being fully committed to this moment and without resistance is so huge. And then the fourth step in the Vasista Yoga too is surrounding yourself with the sages, which to me at this point means us. It doesn't, to me, being committed to being in the company of wisdom and truth in a vibration that is forever higher than this individual self means what we do here. It doesn't mean finding a human teacher, not right now. Um, all the conversation about grief just reminded me of Sandra. And I was so grateful for all the conversations we had here because it hit me in an entirely different way. And then the fourth thing really was trust. And you talked about it, but I was so grateful because, there's a crisis going on. Huh? There always seems to be crises. But my father fell last night. He broke his wrist. He's in the hospital looking for rehab. Is Cindy getting up and going on a plane? What my sisters, all of the drama that happens um, as part of being in this experience. And when I found out about it right before a dyad this morning, I watched my insides explode. I'm not, there was just, I was in a peaceful, easy place. I had just finished the podcast. I was doing my reading. I was getting ready for the dyad. I felt really good. And then I got the message about everything that was going on. And without even going into story, it hurt. It friggin' hurt. And I took it into the dyad, into my contemplation, and it kept coming back to this teaching. What part of this moment, this circumstance, are you believing is outside of God?
Mm.
It's just a simple question. Every time the fear wanted to attach to the story, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have to decide what part of this is outside of the flow, the consciousness. What part of, and it kept taking a different kind of tone, when the mind kept saying, I got to decide, am I going home today? Do I have to go home? Do I have to move to, like it wanted to get frantic. And then again, trust. What part of this are you not trusting that God will flow through you? What part of this are you not like? What part of this is outside of the teachings? What part of this is outside? Like, I could really feel something inside this morning wanting to say, this is the exception. Like, yeah, I love, and the teachings are a beautiful, wonderful thing when things are going well. Right now, things are not going well. I'm still dealing with the student loan situation, and now this, and my car is cracked, and the human condition wanted to be the exception, and this teaching on trust kept pulling me back, and giving me permission to feel all the pain without like falling into the pit. And so really staying focused on tethering to this, and the way they taught it was so beautiful. It's just this trust that no matter what's going on, it's all okay. No, because that's the way they taught it, right? No matter, I know that trust is, the first characteristic of a teacher of God, and we have all the words, but literally I could hear them in my head going, you get to the point where you recognize that no matter what it feels like, trust that it's all okay. And that it's working on me right now, you know, if that. And so, Mel, I've been working on the financials and all sorts of things about an open door, giving lots of opportunities to look at things. And I'm just sitting here. So in awe of what we're creating. I'm in awe of how well Cindy's being supported and cared for and loved. And no matter how this feels in any given moment, I am going to stay tethered to those words, this podcast, and all the other ways that it shows up. And I am going to keep coming back until all that's left here is trust that no matter what Cindy has to do, no matter how it looks, no matter what the emotion or the intensity of the experience is in the moment, the spiritual practice is coming back to the recognition that God has never, and I like the word God, by the way, so you use whatever word you want. God has never abandoned me. God, yes, where is the part of Cindy that says God is not in this? And let me rest around that until that's seen and dissolved. So just thank you.
Mm.
I love, I know to pay attention, Mel, every time you send me a podcast going, I'm not sure if this is the right one for the group, but I know
Oh,
it's the right one for me. So thank
oh,
you.
oh, thank you so much for sharing. And that trust is, yeah, you really are living it. So that's a great help for all of us to hear from you. So thank you so much. Yay. And oh, Amy.
Thank you for this, Mel. I figured it was you. Um, there was a lot about this podcast that I just really enjoyed, but and it spoke to me on many different levels. I loved that they said the way to study is to study the self. So just be in the moment with what's happening and pay attention. Rest in the awareness of what is arising now. And I love that they really kept bringing it back to now, 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 which is what William does, of course, because everything arises. And as Cindy said, it's it was the dwelling nowhere, mind comes forth. Dwelling nowhere, experience arises. Being nowhere, it all just happens. And being the witnessing awareness to it all is, so it really spoke to me on that level. But what I really, really appreciated was their willingness to go into as deeply into awareness as possible until there's no self and what that's like. Because there aren't very many people that I can talk to about that experience. It's a really only a journey that you can make yourself. I mean, all of this is, but I loved that they explained it. And sorry, I'm trying to. The only way that I found, and I also appreciated that they said each path is kind of a unique path. We all experience the absolute in our own unique way. But my way was to go in as deeply into silence as possible and stay as close to the immediate now as possible, and to just pay attention to what was arising, what's arising, what's arising, and to ask, what is it that's aware of this? And it comes to nothing. There is nothing. And then, like so many of us, I am a spiritual explorer. I want to go to the edge and then see what's over there. I want to go into the weeds as much as I can, because if I'm infinite, eternal, why not? And it's so amazing to do that. But I'm also aware that there are people that do that and get lost in the weeds. And so there's a little bit of fear, like, I don't want to get lost out here, but I do want to go as far as I can. So then I call upon that trust that you mentioned. Okay, I trust. I'm not alone here. I am the absolute infinite here. And then just watching what arises and giving it back, watching what arises and letting it go back. And going and spending as much time there as possible without any effort, without efforting it, because it can turn into effort. So I just appreciated this a lot, this fear of dying, you know. And I liked, they said, don't cling to that little piece of driftwood called me. I loved that. Um, and then the transparency of appearances. With beingness as part of that. He said it's the other face of the transparency. And so the beingness and the no beingness are all the same thing. So I said it's really both at the same time. So thank you for that. I really, really enjoyed it. It was great to.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, it was one of the first times where I really had two people actually talk about that experience of dissolving, the total dissolving. So it's reassuring and helpful, to hear that, So it's
Yeah, and it's great to have the experience. You can't spend your life there,
right.
but it's really informative to to really deepen and widen the foundation of awareness that the self is really just a series of memories and that there really isn't any personality self.
Mm.
The deeper and more solid our foundation in that can be, It doesn't, as they said, it doesn't mean the troubles of the world go away. They don't. It just it just creates a bigger place for the soft landing, coming back into the awareness of just being. But it doesn't mean the world goes away or that it all your troubles end. Your father doesn't no longer fall and break his wrist. And people that you love you don't completely disagree with them about things. It doesn't hurt that you can't always be on the same page with your loved ones all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
really lovely. Thank you, Mel.
you. And his poem on the frozen lake, that was amazing. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
You explain that because he said what most people skate across the frozen lake and
Yeah.
never descend into the depths. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's sorry for those that don't, in a sense, that don't, the crack, in which they recognize there's that incredible depth to everything. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Amy. And Lonnie, let's see.
I'm back because I realized there was something that really stood out in the video, and that was that trust topic for us. This realization that this surrender walk has been literally all about trust. But I'm walking in this, it doesn't really matter how much knowing there is, because the personality shows up to show you what you're really living. And I have a 24-year-old brown skinned boy that lives with me, that every single day that he walks out to go to work because of where we live, this flag of worry rises in the personality being that Lonnie is, of whether or not he'll make it home safely. And with all of the talk, I'm realizing that was part of the energy of yesterday for me. So with all of the talk of all of the fear and this and that, I've realized, well, there's a wind tunnel that I've only got sucked into. And so yesterday there was we call it a meeting. And it was this thing of, haven't you agreed to trust? And I'm like, no, I surrendered. Well, that's what this is. And if you can trust that no matter what, you're going to be okay, can you trust that no matter what, he will be okay? And then I sat with, what does that look like for me when I say I will be okay no matter what? And I realized that when I do go out there, the one fear I don't have is of being killed, is of being attacked. And I think it's not even a think, because right now my system is kind of vibrating. It's really in the knowing that whatever it is that happens when I do go out there has a purpose and has a service in some way. I kind of walk in the belief that literally every single thing that happens between two people happens for both of those people. And also for the people who witness it. And so right now I just see opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to either engage in fear or trust that every single thing that's occurring has a function in the greater picture. And that I don't have to know what that is. Sending him out to work, or he was going out this morning and it got changed. But I went to bed last night without that fear on my heart. Knowing that when he gets up and leaves out of here, it would have been this morning, that God got him. Whatever happens, that God got him. And it made me think of you, Amy, because the hardest thing this leg of the walk has presented me is witnessing the others that I wish I could pull in, but knowing that I've got to allow them to walk like they're walking. We all go, everybody's going to that death and eventually. How we get there is really up to us. It's not up to what we think it should be for somebody else. Again, just trusting that there's a higher intelligence to all this. It's taking, it's helping us not bite down on some of the hooks that get dropped for fear because they're everywhere. Getting sucked in the back door of one is the best thing I could possibly ask for because now I can step out. So that trust topic, completely different than how I would have discussed it 5 years ago. But that hit me yesterday. And I think it also is, it's why I think I have honestly a bit of a bad taste in the Ailani mouth with Alma. So I'm grateful to get a chance to sit and listen again because the last flavor that was left were with his representatives. And I shut that door. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity to reopen it and rehear them.
Oh, thank you, Lonnie. Yeah, I can really kind of relate to what you were talking about. I think a lot of us, when you have a child, even, we worry more about them, right? Or what their vulnerability and whatever. And my daughter has always had this incredible fear of throwing up to the point that she is, constantly washing her hands, but things like she won't fly. And I think one of the reasons behind her not wanting to have children is because, when you get pregnant, right, chances are you could have morning sickness. And so many ways it's impact her, and she's aware of that. And yet, I have to let her, she has to live out, this is what she's been brought to her to deal with, right? And you just have to trust that it's, trust in that there's a divine force around handling all of this. And it just kind of lets you take yourself the worry out of, trying to micromanage or. So anyway, thank you for sharing it about.
And why am I going to walk in fear if he does not?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Patricia, hi.
Good morning, everyone. Good to be here. Oh, Melanie, thank you so much. I loved it. I loved it. I'm going to re-listen to it again and again. I love the interchange between the two of them. And I do like Sounds True. I listen to it quite often. And I really appreciate what they have to offer. But one thing that a couple of things came forefront for me is that we are the Sangha here. We are here, Amy and William and all of us talk about coming to the edge. I often can sit in silence and I get close and then suddenly the chattering monkey starts. And it's just that I can watch it and go, fear. Well, I loved what they said, what Schuckman said about fear. And it says, I love the simplicity of Buddhism. I truly love it. And it is getting close to fear and allowing it to come forefront, but not getting attached to it because I deal with fear now with kindness and compassion. It's like, oh, okay. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that you're trying to protect me, but I really don't need it. I don't need the protection right now, but thank you. When I cross the street, do you mind coming and visiting me again? So there's an interchange that begins to come. We talked about, Lonnie bringing up the different parts of herself. We all have parts of ourselves. So Free to Fear comes forefront, and I get a chance to have a conversation with her. And it's delicious, but not getting attached to the thinking or the feelings, but to greet them with welcome and kindness. And, it's like what William was talking about the other day when he said, oh, I want to go to this funeral of the ego. Well, I like that very much. I would like to come to the edge and let go of all that. I'm not there yet, But thanks to you all, if I get close and I get scared, I have people to reach out to because we are a Sangha. We are here for each other. So blessings upon you all. I appreciate you all deeply in my heart, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Patricia. Great. And Alice. Hi, Alice. Let's see.
Hi, I'm trying to do this on a tablet. Uh, uh, yeah, it was magnificent. I listened to it late last night in that kind of ready to go to sleep, and I just um, what you know, just let it pour into me instead of like taking notes. And and I really felt that when you're at the feet of a master, like when you're listening to somebody that just has that um, kind of complete understanding and articulation of the principles. And so it just felt magnificent. I couple things from my personal experience, it was that it kind of helped me make sense of things that occurred with me and are in my memories, is like um my friend Sandy has talked about um, being carved deeply by grief, and I I I'm a mother who I've lost a daughter, and I felt like my poor me says, wow, all these losses, I think from a very young age I could give you a list of my grandfather, when the first time I realized felt grief or understood loss. And I had I had friends die in the Vietnam War. I had girlfriends. My best friend died in her 40s, and so that the frozen lake, falling through the ice in the frozen lake, was the first time I really felt like I could appreciate the that the grief does shatter that my constructed little self. And because for me it felt like shattering um each time, the really felt like I had to that I was a bunch of particles and not a solid self, um which I now realize is a spiritual experience of like non being, and I helped me have a way to say what when being and non-being, as they toss that around. And I really felt like that. I think one thing that helped me put myself back together was a 12-step, was Al-Anon. And I thought that the triangle of practice, personal practice, a teacher, and a community was 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 I was the first time I experienced that those 4 points are around me, and that I was agreeing, aligning with. So I can't wait to listen to it again, and it was just magnificent, and it was really touched me personally. And other things like I did some practices with like Sweat Lodge, and I worked with that teacher and dances and things like that, which I didn't even know why I was doing it, other than that teacher was important. And it's like it was to break down that solidified structure, that's what is the ego, or it's just the seeming rules of how like packing myself and protecting myself and building this Alice, and that in those kind of rituals of Sweat Lodge and um, enduring kind of long-term things, like I couldn't. It was like, oh, so it breaks that down. It breaks down my defenses, which like for Course of Miracles, and like my my defenses are a foolish guardian of a mad illusion. It was like, okay, um, I get that. So yeah, wow, thank you for providing this and directing me there.
Oh,
Thanks.
thank you. Thank you, Alice. Yeah, I think you reminded me of something where I think he says when you're pushed outside of your knowing box, pushed out beyond what you can know, that's where you can experience, that it's pretty cool how they, yeah, talk. And you pointed to that too, that
The way,
what
the
grief
way,
you or, yeah.
the way I wrote it here is something about surrendering into intense grief gets you to the point where there's something outside of what the self knows,
Yeah, that was it. Thank you. Outside what the self knows. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
which helps you with the trust, right?
Yes, you need to trust to be willing to.
A trust that is beyond the mind. I wrote that really big in all capital letters, a trust that is beyond the mind.
They equated trust with courage.
Mhm.
And I thought that was insightful. I thought that was good. And Alice, I have
Well,
a
if
little,
you want, I have the
I
emoji.
have a, I have a little thing on my computer where I put a lot of my sayings, and it says, "It's always painful to be Amy." And you said something along those lines. When I think I'm Alice, it's it's always going to involve some.
Imagine being able to build.
Sorry. Mm. Sorry about that. I was clicking on Cindy, you left a link there. That
I left the link to the guided meditation that we listened to in the Sangha last night
oh,
in our 6 p.m. open door meeting.
oh, great.
A,
Okay.
a guided meditation by Henry called Just This. That's what
Yeah.
I dropped.
I had never heard of him before. Did anybody else have heard of?
No,
No. Oh,
yeah.
you have, Patricia. Okay. Yeah. So have you read his book, Patricia? He had no, okay.
Mel, do you see that William's hand is up?
Oh, William. Thanks, Cindy. Yay, William.
What's occurring in me more and more? It just is nothing now. And I keep thinking something is happening now. And I'm not here. You're not here. It's just happening. It's happening. That's what I'm sensing. Doesn't make any sense. And I just love feeling so much gratitude for everybody. The way that you can use words, put them together, sing your song. You have different frequencies. How in the world do you remember all those words that you summarize things with? But where I go is just right now. It's everything is happening simultaneously. All these words, there's no cause, there's no start and finish. It's always now. And I love that course 189 in the lesson. Simply do this, be still, lay aside all thoughts of what you are and what God is, all concepts, all images. Just empty your mind. Hold on to nothing. It's everything. It's like I'm everything. When I get in this place, there's nothing really to do other than be nothing. be this space. I can't believe how simple it is because I've been so trained to listen to more thoughts, more understanding, more understanding, more understanding. And simply let go. Forget this world, forget everything, and even forget about forgetting. It's just all I know. It's just now, whatever word is used, I just love being quiet. So just, I don't need to even say thank you. We all are just full of gratitude for everything, and everything that isn't. It's just so perfect.
Wow. Thank you, William. You made me recall where he talked about, I think it was Henry was at a retreat when he had that experience, and when he came back, the only thing he could say was what, thank you. Just thank you. And I know we all feel that. So thank you. And Sandy. Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Muji has that meditation where all he says is thank you,
Mm.
thank you, thank you, over and over again. That gratitude. I feel gratitude right now. And thank you, Melanie. I liked your summary at the beginning.
Oh, thanks.
And as you were saying each line, I was thinking, wait, stop, we need to talk about that. No, and then you said another line, wait, stop, there's more there. There was just so much in it. And but then I just said, no, let it all wash over me. I didn't get to listen to the whole podcast, so I'll finish it tonight. But what stood out for me, all the things everybody has said, but the couple that haven't been talked about yet. Do you remember the story of what was it, Wan Wei Nun or the guy who gathered the firewood? He was talking about the guy who gathered the firewood and how he had this simple life and he was taking care of his mom and he would go out and gather the firewood. And one day he comes into the store and there's this monk reading something. And it was that simple. I guess he was open to it, but it was that simple. It dropped. The penny dropped, as they say. And I think, and I also love that they said there were so many different ways, so many different experiences. That's what I've come to understand. But in the beginning, I kept looking. I wanted somebody to affirm what I had experienced. So I kept looking for teachers who would say what I had experienced was true. Somehow I didn't accept it myself totally. And now I know that I liked that they said that there isn't a right way. There isn't a perfect constructive map, blueprint that we need to follow. And I found that many teachers try to do that. If you do it this way, or they put labels on what kind of path it is. And then that creates its own construction. He talked about constructions and structures. So for me, what happened was just exactly like Wei Nun. I wasn't on any path. I was just living my life. And I didn't hear words, I read them. I read them in a book. And I went, wow, the penny dropped. And all of a sudden, I knew the truth of my being. And it doesn't matter that nobody else. I'm glad Wayne Nunn did it that way, because now I finally found someone whose experience was similar. But it doesn't matter. It's just so beautiful. The other thing I liked, I didn't write much down from what I listened to, but I liked the concept of a drop of compassion, the single tear. That went right through me. When I'm open, and I have learned to be open to all of these, finding truth everywhere. To not come with a preconceived notion of what is supposed to be said in a certain way with a certain path or orientation. And that openness really feeds my soul. I mean, I'm nourished from so many different people, and the same with each of you. It's like, it's really no different. It doesn't have to be a teacher on a podcast who has obtained some notoriety. It's as simple as, you're going about gathering your wood, washing your dishes, whatever you're doing. And it's like it cracks open and the opening comes and there you are. And that drop of compassion I've learned to have for myself, for the Sandy character. She amuses me sometimes. But mostly there's compassion for all of the experiences and the conditioned self. And as it all starts to drop away, it's like there was this big construction project with lots of rooms, and room by room, I've been dismantling, taking it down, cleaning out the closets, the stuff. And then all of a sudden it just goes, whole thing falls down. And then I'm open to the wide open air. I can breathe in the breezes that come. There aren't any shut windows anymore. So, Melanie, it's so good to see you. I gave you a hug.
Oh, thanks. Good to be with friends. Thank you, Sandy, so much. And Indigo's here. Hooray.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here. I really love what you just said. It's like we don't know how it comes. And everyone, it's different. And what I've learned from my experience is that it's perfect. However it comes for us, it's perfect. That's why even like Trump, who I don't agree with him, but what he's doing is perfect. It's perfect because it's exactly what God and Ramana wants him to do. And we don't need to understand it. That's what I've learned from my experience, is that even when Indigo or whomever hates, or I hate it, or whoever hates it, that is perfect. Whatever's happening, it's perfect. And it's here for us. I just love being here with all of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Indigo. Yeah, it's liberating to know that, to realize, like Sandy was pointing and Indigo, that we there's nobody controlling it. We're not controlling any of it. It's going to happen when it's perfect, right? And so that takes all the stress and the struggle out of it, because it's just going to happen when it's all going to happen. So just enjoy now. And that's the message in a sense. That's what we are. It's just now. Thank you, William, for that too. Yeah. And
So
let's see.
Mel, I do have a song.
Hey, thanks.
You know what's really crazy? I swear to God, I set up the song and I was like, I don't know why I set up this song, but I'm going to trust it. And then it was pointed to. So there you have it.
Right.
Are you ready for me to play it?
Yes.
And it'll go past our 1 o'clock. So I want to first say thank you so much. This was extraordinary. I'm so in love with us, all of us. And we get to hang together again in 3 hours for Advaita in Ace AM. So, yeah, in case you have to leave before the song's over. But let's play this.
Thank you for the air that I can breathe. Thank you for these songs you've given me. Thank you for the times I couldn't see. Now we're free. Thank you for this simple life I know. Thank you for the pain of letting go. Thank you for the times I felt alone. Now we're home. And I don't wanna waste, I won't give up. Oh, I don't wanna taste, I've had enough. Everybody knows there's only love. There's only love now. Thank you for this holy family. Thank you, my beloved Guruji. Thank you for this peace and harmony. Let it be. Thank you for my son, you saved his life. Thank you for the suffering and strife. Thank you for the times I couldn't fight in your life. And I don't wanna waste, I won't give up. I don't wanna taste, I've had enough. Everybody knows there's only love. There's only love.